Thanks for being right here on this Friday edition of the Ed Schultz Internet Broadcast. Ed Schultz News and Commentary brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen, Clean, the iSafe team. Short on detail when it comes to trade. Larry Cohen is the former president of the Communication Workers of America, chair of Democracy Initiative, and also an official spokesperson for the Sanders campaign. Larry, good to have you back with us.
My pleasure.
I want your thoughts on Trump saying what he would do to other countries and products bringing products into the United States and dumping them on our market. For instance, they'd have to pay a tax to get these cars back into the United States. Now, it's my understanding that there are trade agreements, and we would be in violation if we were to do something like that. Or could the president just move forward to do it on executive order? Sort that out for us.
No, it's definitely in violation of the trade agreements. The trade agreements start out with no tariffs or low tariffs, and what he's talking about is essentially a tariff. What you can do, though, is have value-added taxes that, on all products that come into the country, and when goods are exported, those value-added taxes are rebated. It's common in most countries in the world, and it's one of the ways they pay for health care for all.
And this is one of the issues in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, isn't it? The value-added tax. It was not addressed in the 11th hour. It became a real sticking point.
It's one of the issues. Yeah, I think, sadly, one of the biggest issues is the insistence of the U.S. Trade Representative that pharmaceuticals enjoy a 12-year ban on generic drugs, which people around the world, detest that notion, and we're fighting for that. Australia and New Zealand are saying no. And then there are tariff issues on dairy goods and other things. But there's 3 or 4 issues, and that is one of them, yeah.
What is your response to Trump making it sound so easy, like there's just such a simple solution to make sure that we are not getting screwed on any kind of trade issues that will value American workers?
Well, I think, the good news, if we want to look for it, is that he's raising this issue. The rest of the Republican candidates think the U.S. trade strategy for the last 40 years is just fine. And he does raise the issue that obviously Bernie Sanders raises as well, and that, we've raised in every context that you've raised for 2 years. So I think that's the good news. Yeah, the bad news on most of what he does is he makes it sound simple. Just elect me and I'll take care of it, when obviously these issues involve massive change that's needed, but it's not a simple one. And the movement to do it, you're not going to get it. I mean, you need Congress on our side, and you also need to engage the rest of the world, as you just talked about on the issue of oil.
The issue with Hillary Clinton's email server being turned over and this story simply not going away. What kind of effect is this having, in your opinion, on her campaign, and what kind of effect is it having on Sanders' campaign?
Well, so I think the bigger issue that hasn't been addressed much about the email is what is the connection between the personal server, the Clinton Foundation, the fees that first President Clinton received and then she did, and who are those donors, and then what happened to that money? And my own opinion is that's a much bigger issue than how many of them were classified. As you've pointed out, unlikely that they're classified, or she wouldn't be talking the way she is. The bigger issue really is at the core of the difference between the support for Bernie and for Secretary Clinton, which is what I'd call populism. That people are just sick and tired of special treatment for special people. And the appeal of Bernie Sanders is, he's just one of us. I've been to his house. I know him for 20 years. There's nothing you don't see. He's just one of us.
Yeah.
And, he wouldn't think of having a personal server to take his email. And so I think it's the arrogance of how you come up with strategies like that about how you live your life versus, and some of it, to be fair, comes from having been the first lady and the whole Clinton scene. But on the other hand, that's also what people are reacting against, that that, we don't need to carnate people. We shouldn't assume people are going to be the next president. And there's too much in that campaign that assumes that, including, the way they react to the way they campaign. There's too much that assumes here's your next president, as opposed to I'm going to fight to change things for working people. And that's, I think, the appeal of Bernie Sanders.
Larry, in old school politics, any competitor would be jumping all over this, making it a huge issue. There's plenty of room for negative commentary here. There's plenty of room for pointing fingers and raising the negative and the speculation that she simply can't be president. Yet Bernie Sanders just doesn't go down that road. How is that being received? What is the pulse of the folks that are following Bernie, that all that stuff isn't important, we don't want to deal with it, and this is where we want to go? Capsulize that for us.
Well, I think that's the difference between, Bernie, the candidate, sensitivity that he has, and rightly so, about the 16 or 17 Republicans that are running. His own sense, the opposite kind of sense. There's no inevitability for Bernie that he's going to be the candidate. So I don't think he wants to, run down somebody who may well be the candidate. And, the way he responded to the New York Times reporter who started to ask him about hair, that's actually how he is. He doesn't want to talk about hair, and he doesn't want to talk about her email. He wants to talk about how we change the country. On the other hand, I would say that for the rest of us, we're a candidate, and I think, we shouldn't be afraid to raise these issues now, because if they're raised later, it'll be too late.
How refreshing is it to be working with a campaign where you have a candidate like this that is so focused on issues and so solid, and you must have this instinctive feeling there's no way he's going to get sidetracked by all this bullshit? I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, that's really, when I look at Bernie Sanders' campaign and the people that are with him, I mean, I think that there's a real air of confidence that, that's not going to detract who our guy is and what he wants to do and where he wants to take the country.
Yeah, you just nailed it. And, for me, after I left as president of CWA, 2 days later, I went to see him. I had seen him a few weeks before as well. And I told him I'll volunteer 10 hours a week. And as I've said before, it's become 10 hours a day, and it's still volunteer because that's what I committed to. I mean, he would have hired me. But the thrill that I have, working with him is just, I couldn't describe it. And I did feel some of that in 2007 and 2008 with Barack Obama. So, I mean, I think, to be fair, there was a lot of that in that campaign. I think the difference here is that he is speaking about what he's done for really almost 50 years, and it's a direct continuation versus, as the president would say and has said to me, I'm a pretty good debater. This isn't Bernie debating. This is Bernie laying out, what he has been and how he would continue as president. And most importantly, even more so than the Obama campaign in 2008, that it's up to us. And so there's a decentralization about this campaign that is just a phenomena, meaning, we saw it with the House visits. People have their own list, not just his list. There's a guy, I forget his name, here in D.C. that has got 76,000 people to sign up saying if Bernie does a town hall in D.C., they'll be there. He did it himself.
Yeah.
And he has the list. And so I think that this notion, and this is why I call it populism, I've never seen it. I'm sure it's existed before my time, but I've never seen it.
And do you believe the numbers that are coming out of Iowa, that Clinton is slipping and Bernie's gaining?
Oh, absolutely. When I was with him, and I'm about to go next weekend go back, but I saw it myself. And honestly, even though I was part of his campaign when I was there and with him, I was shocked. And it's not just the numbers; it's the people that say, I'm a Republican, I'm an independent. It's the people that feel like, hey, I can be a part of it. This guy's not for sale. He's not interested to see, how much money can he make for himself and his family. It doesn't even cross his mind. It's the authenticity. But But the outpouring of volunteers, when I was in Council Bluffs with him, and this has been repeated ever since, 100 volunteers were trained the day before, and they ran that event. And they're people who live in Potawatomi County. 100 of them, and I talked to a lot of them. I met with them. And, it's this notion of that you can run a campaign for president of the United States without large donors, without doing fundraising to any extent, and with everyday people actually running big chunks of this campaign. They're running it. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, it's revolutionary. There's no doubt. No doubt. Larry, next weekend I'll see you in Iowa. Great to have you with us here on the Ed Schultz Internet Broadcast, Ed Schultz News and Commentary. I appreciate it. We'll do it again. Thanks, my friend.
Take care.
You bet.